Hello. So I made a video about the royal family and the latest fuss, which was reporting that another old family retainer had been mistreated. It turned out, of course, that the old family retainer had indeed been told to leave her Grace and Favour cottage in Windsor, and I made a video about it, furiously criticising the royal family for their awful behaviour. Then it turned out, and this behaviour actually was reported in every single source that I'd found, all the papers, Yahoo News, you know, the lot. And it turned out a little while later, in fact a couple of hours later, that the king had bought the lady a house elsewhere, in Yorkshire to be precise, which is absolutely the best. I don't know whether she actually requested to be given a place up north. That's a long way from London, or whether, given the several reports that she was, well, something of an abrasive character and didn't get along with some members of the royal family, or the royal household rather. As a matter of fact, her name, Angela Kelly, had the unfortunate coincidence of the initials A and K, and so she was referred to by some, I don't know who, she was referred to by some as AK-47. Who says the royals don't have a sense of humour? Anyway, as I say, given all of the foregoing, I don't know whether she, well, requested to be moved to Yorkshire, or whether the firm had collectively decided that since transportation was no longer an option, Yorkshire was the best of the available alternatives. As I said, who will ever know? And this is Granniopteryx interrupting herself to tell you that I am on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds, links in the description. I'm also on Twitter and Gab, links in the description. And you can contribute financially to my channel. The links are in the description. The one thing you don't have to worry about accessing links for is the like button, which I would appreciate you using, and you can also share and subscribe if you're so inclined. Okay, back to royal affairs. As I said, who will ever know? But something did occur to me after I'd made and uploaded the apology video for my earlier mistake, and that was what the newspapers had made of their own original lack of research. Well, most of them ignored the coda to that story, but the Daily Mail had at least the good grace of reporting the correction. However, they put it this way: did the king gift the late Queen's dresser a house in bid to stop another royal memoir? Which strikes me as a bit sour, although it is possible, of course. On that point, something did occur to me, a story from years gone past, a rather sad story, but it's something that might be very relevant here. We are the sum of our history, after all. Before I go on, I want to talk about a governess of Queen Elizabeth who was called Marion Crawford. Now, Queen Mary had been the Queen Consort. She was the mother of the man who became briefly Edward VIII. He abdicated, and Queen Mary's second son became king, Elizabeth's father. When Marion Crawford was employed by the Duke of York as a governess for Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret, there was no prospect of Elizabeth actually ascending to the throne. He was the Duke of York, he was the spare, and his children were just, you know, sort of on one side. Then Edward VIII abdicated and Elizabeth became next in line for the throne, and Marion Crawford, their governess, was far more in the limelight after that. Marion Crawford wrote about the royal family and was ostracised by the royal family for doing so. And so I did wonder about this permission the late Queen gave to Miss Kelly to write not just a couple of articles, but no less than 3 memoirs. So let's go back to Marion Crawford. She retired in 1948 when both her charges were adults, and thereafter she was given Nottingham Cottage to live in. That's in the grounds of Kensington Palace, and you could say it's a comfortable place in probably the most prime of prime real estate in London. Queen Mary had it beautifully decorated for her. She was very grateful for her tutelage of the 2 princesses. She had it beautifully decorated and furnished, and all seemed, very comfortable until after the Queen's marriage. An American company wanted more information about the royal family and went searching for someone who had that information, and they found Marion Crawford. Hearing of this, the Queen Consort, Elizabeth, later known as the Queen Mother, wrote to Crawford as follows: I do feel most definitely that you should not write and sign articles about the children, as people in positions of confidence with us must be utterly oyster. If you, the moment you finished teaching Margaret, started writing about her and Lilibet, well, we should never feel confidence in anyone again. Somewhat prophetic, I'd say. Sometime later, a manuscript by Crawford was submitted to the palace for approval. The Queen did not approve. But she didn't outright ban it either. She returned the manuscript to the publishers with 1 or 2 redactions. And the articles were printed in a British magazine and an American magazine. It seemed that Crawford wasn't aware of how much she'd upset her royal patrons, and they didn't evict her from her house, but no member of the royal family ever spoke to her again. The first clue she had was when she didn't get a Christmas card. After a while, being so completely isolated, she moved house to Scotland. Some members of the royal household have said that it must have been her husband who coerced her into writing those articles. But after her husband died, Crawford tried to kill herself. And the suicide note she left read, "The world has passed me by, and I can't bear those I love to pass me by on the road." You see, she'd moved to a place near Balmoral, so the royal family could have actually called in on her, but they never did. The late Queen at the time, well, she was at first under the guidance of her parents, and then after that, as a recently crowned monarch, she was probably unsure of her position. So I'm sure she felt she couldn't break ranks at the time. But certainly no member of the royal family even sent a wreath when Miss Crawford died in 1988. But then you see the Queen Mother didn't die until 2002, and she could have still had some influence. It's all very sad. And it could be that Her late Majesty might have had this in mind when she gave Miss Kelly permission to write her books. Sort of restorative justice in a way. However, on another note, since Miss Kelly is definitely not a royal nor an aristocrat, and so is free to talk about things without worrying about upsetting the people in her immediate social circle, perhaps the Queen was ensuring that there would be someone who would not only tell the truth about the royal family, but would be believed. So that when another member of the royal family or somebody else might give her truth in the matter of some stories, we'd have Miss Kelly's version to counterbalance it. Miss Kelly's external and disinterested version of how things really were. Just a thought. Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.